Uh, Before I jump into the topic of today's discussion, let's time travel. Let's go back to 1900s, and let's imagine and let's see what can we derive out of this. So as you can see, this is this is a street from the 1900s. This is Fifth Avenue, New York City, and as you can see, the picture is filled with horses and horse carriages. But there is something interesting in this picture. There is something unique. If it would have been physical conference, we would have definitely played this puzzle. But as it is an online event, so the challenge. So talking about the challenge in this picture, the challenge here is to spot the car. So as you can see, the car is right in the middle. Now, going ahead, let's travel to 1913s. So as you can see, this is again from the same Fifth Avenue, New York City. And now what you see is a road filled with cars. And again, the challenge here is to spot the horse. And again, I'll make things easier for you guys. This is right in the middle. So when you will compare and analyze these two images, what we can derive, you know, within a span of just 13 years, the transport industry got revolutionized. It got transformed. So now an important question here is, what happened to those horse riders in the year 1900s? Most of them or some of them might have become car drivers in the 1913, or some of them have changed, might have changed the profession for good. So this is the speed of change that we're talking about. And you all know that, today Tesla has launched an electric vehicle, and going ahead in 2025, we won't be surprised that you see this state. Now you see a road filled with cars, and all cars are with autonomous vehicles. So now in 2025, the challenge will be to spot the driver. So now what we can derive out of this slide is, the speed of change that we saw from 1900 to 13s is only going to increase, or allow me to use the word, it can explode. So now the important food for thought here is, what will happen to the drivers now? So this is a food for thought. Now let's see some more images. This looks like a very happy image. We are all eagerly waiting for tomorrow, TGIF. But taking the previous discussion forward, in 2020, what exactly happened? In 2020, the pandemic just pressed on the accelerator. It was like the coronavirus was standing on the accelerator pad, the vehicle's brakes have failed, and the driver had no control of the car. And today, if you will compare, and you all might agree that we definitely do some kind of this party. So what we can derive here is, how we quickly adapted ourselves to this new world. So the food of thought here is, if we as humans who are extremely intelligent, if we can quickly adapt ourselves to this changing environment, why not companies? They have to. Now, let us look at some more images. So this is a beautiful picture of a vacation. We are all desperately need a vacation since the last 2 years. And especially for people who are in Mauritius like us, we can go here every week. But apart from that, definitely we need a vacation. But again, talking about human intelligence, what we need, do now is this. At one moment, you change your background picture to Miami. In the second moment, you travel to Iceland. So again, how we started adapting and enjoying this new way of living. And an important learning from this is, the challenges have always been a catalyst to transformation. So this is a very important food for thought. So going ahead, this is a picture. Let's look at some more images. So this shows that there is a physical meeting happening in an office. So talking about pandemic, the pandemic has accelerated the change towards transformation. We are seeing years of change condensed into a few months. The society has entered a new phase, which we call as the isolation economy, which fundamentally challenges the normal operating context of social and sharing economies. Now, going ahead, let's analyze this image. So this is about an old assembly line. If you will show this image to some teenagers, they would just freeze. Man, something like this even existed. But by looking at this image, I remember a very old saying from Mr. Henry Ford. This was about a Model T that he launched earlier. So he said that any customer can have a car painted any color that they want, as long as it is black. It is a very funny statement made, but finally Model T came in only black. because the production line that we see here, it required compromise to achieve efficiency and quality. And talking about latest manufacturers today, for example, Suzuki, now what you can do is you can just go online, choose your color, choose your own design. And at the extreme end, we have this Tesla. So this is a car factory from Tesla. We see that, Mr. Elon Musk says there are no humans allowed within this factory because the machines that operate at a speed here, it might be. What can we derive here? We can derive that the technology has evolved from only humans to no humans allowed. So now going ahead, the world has taught us new jargon. So obviously VUCA, which is the main concept of the theme of this today event. But VUCA, talking about VUCA, VUCA is not new. VUCA has been a concept which was coined in the year 1990s after the Cold War by US Army War College students. And it was at then coined to characterize the present situation of the world at that time, because nobody knew after the Cold War what would happen to them or to the world the next day. But now VUCA is gaining a new relevance to characterize the current environment. So talking about VUCA, let's have a quick recap. I'm sure you might have heard about the full forms throughout the event, but just as a recap, V stands for volatility. It means the change is rapid and unpredictable. The best example is obviously pandemic. I don't think it needs any further explanation. U stands for uncertainty. It means the events and outcomes are unpredictable. As humans, we obviously hate uncertainties. But what if the uncertainties is the driving force behind an organization? You got to change your thinking. C stands for complexity. It means, there are multiple issues and factors which may be interconnected, and anything that increases complexity in an already complex situation can create confusion amongst your team members. Now, problems escalate, problems exponentially increase when there is a complex environment business that you're working in. And A stands for ambiguity, which means there are more than one possible answer to a business problem. Or sometimes you may think this is the business problem, but when you dig deeper, you say there are so many problems, it will be difficult for you to understand. And definitely it requires a quality leadership to navigate the company through. Similarly, phygital. So phygital is again not a new word. This word was invented in 2013 by an Australian agency called as Momentum. So what does phygital mean? It is nothing but a simple concept of using technology to bridge the digital world with the physical world, with the purpose of obviously providing a unique interactive experience for the customers. So now we talk about VUCA, we talk about phygital. This brings to the topic of today's discussion, which is emergence of phygital in a VUCA world. So, I have always been a banker since the start of my professional career. So I will shift to banking now. But you can associate this to any industry which provides services from their branch network. So this is a famous image which you might have seen during the last year, where you enter a physical branch and you see that most of the counters are closed. But still, an important thing to know here is, whatever industry you talk about, there will always be one customer base in all the industries who would love physical interactions. Frankly, who wouldn't like that, right? We all love physical interactions. So what we realized that, the physical branch network remained particularly challenging to shift online completely. And however, we also believed that the physical presence will not cease to exist, even with the advent of digital technologies like internet banking, mobile app. We talk about any technologies we have. So, but obviously, when you talk about branch banking or any kind of industry like I spoke about, which provides services by the bank, it always has some shortcomings. So as you can see, it's obviously high cost to serve. The infrastructure costs are very high, and it is only going to increase. The turnaround time for a customer service will be high, especially during peak hours. And the humans and the staff within the branch, if you will carefully notice them, they are more tuned and programmed for human relationships. They are especially trained to bring new relations to the bank, deepen existing relationships. But what if you put them with the responsibility of executing mundane transactions? Obviously, that means less new business. And last but not the least, restricted access. So it is obviously you can operate only 5 days a week, and only during limited time. It is definitely not 24/7. But now talking about the new world, with 2020 taught us, branches are closed or operating on 50% capacity, working hours are limited, people don't want to interact with people, enter the isolation economy. So now, in the backdrop of this situation, how do we create ways to leverage on customer behavior inclined towards non-physical and low touch or zero touch solution? So in order to be future fit, we believed that branch banking must be completely reimagined, especially in the pandemic era, given that the traditional bank branches are likely to struggle for meaningful customer footfalls and would tend to be a low priority destination for most. But talking about branch banking and talking about those set of customers who love physical interactions, so we need to first understand, why do we love that? Obviously, when you enter a physical environment, you would want people to recognize you, to see you, to talk to you, to interact with you, to emotionally connect with you. So these are all human wants, right? So with this backdrop, what we did in Absa Bank Mauritius was we started exploring various solutions. We actually wanted to blend the digital and the physical world to create a truly cohesive hybrid and offer a new type of customer experience, which we term it as a phygital customer experience. And at the same time, we also wanted to interlace on the emerging technologies. So as you all might be aware that there have been huge strides in artificial intelligence, which we call AI, machine learning, which we call ML, natural language processing, which we call NLP. Just to give you an example, the common use of NLP in the last 5 years, as you would have seen in most of the websites, including airlines, banks, many financial institutions, that they actually have a chatbot on their websites to answer frequently asked questions, so that customer does not need to have the contact center. So we know this existed. But at the same time, we also wanted to extend it further. So now with these advanced technologies in hand, we came up with the concept of introducing a self-service channel in branch channel. Nevertheless, the idea was never to, simply set up a digital self-service kiosk, like put an internet banking on a PC and show it on the kiosk. We never wanted to do that. The idea was, always to go far beyond and present a personal digital banking assistant instead of a simple desktop to a customer. So, and at the same time, we also wanted this particular kiosk to mimic the human behavior. When I say mimic the human behavior, it means, as customers, when we walk in, we want the staff to recognize us. You have face recognition. We want to interact with the staff. We have voice activation. We have voice recognition. We want to connect with them emotionally. We have the natural language processing. So with all this backdrop, so what we started was, we fast tracked on the project, and we fast tracked on the, so there are two prototypes when we talk about Abby. There is a humanoid prototype and then the tablet prototypes. So at this stage, when we were clear, Abby was born. So this is right in front of you. We present Abby, a personal digital banker, to revolutionize banking and providing a wow customer experience. As you can see, it is aesthetically designed in the vibrant colors of Absa, and it's also equipped with a touchscreen controller. It is also bilingual. It can understand, it can speak English and French. And with this, in December 2020, Abby has integrated all our Absa branches. So when you talk about what Abby can do, so just to start with, Abby can do all kind of banking transactions, including fund transfers, bill payments, set up a standing instruction, set up a direct debit, update your mobile number, email ID, answer any frequently asked questions or answer any banking related queries, apply for products. It is also built in with a capability of, branch ticketing. Let's say a customer wants to do some physical element of banking. So Abby will give them a ticket. And not only that, the humanoid version can actually walk customer to the staff. So these are some of the important functions of Abby. But the most critical functions are, Abby can do face recognition. As soon as the customer walks and stands in front of Abby can recognize the customer through face. Abby can interact through its voice activated features. And it's also, you can answer any, it can answer any types of frequently asked questions. It can talk to you intelligently. You can ask Abby to tell a joke. It will tell you a joke. So there are so many things Abby can do. So now enough said. What I'm going to do is, instead of speaking, I'm going to play a quick 5-minute video which will truly showcase the capabilities what Abby can do. So this is, I'm going to play a quick video. Okay.
Please enter required details. Please enter your date of birth. Please enter the required details. Enter OTP. Looking great. Take a picture. Please align your face to the camera. You are almost done. Just one final step. Awesome, you are now registered with Abby. Let's bank.
All right. I'm sure you might have enjoyed the video, but from the video, from the look of it, you feel that it looks so easy. But let me just talk through some of the challenges that we faced. Before that, just to let you know, like everybody else, we started with version 1 when we started with the journey, but we actually went live with version 10, and each version obviously had some 6 to 7 iterations of prototyping. So in terms of challenges, we faced a number of challenges during the implementation of the project. I'll just give you some examples. The first one was, during the face recognition. So when we actually thought, so before I talk about this, the most important thing that we need to consider when you design a phygital project is that the way the customer behaves in a physical world and the customer behaves in an online world is completely different. The way a customer operates a kiosk in a public place will be very different than how we operate a mobile app or internet banking at our place. So this was one of the key learnings. So with this, during the first prototype, what we did was we always wanted, obviously, like to like comparison of what we thought of. We always want when the customer walks into a branch, Abby directly recognizes him by face. So we kept the face recognition always on. But when we actually, to our surprise, when we took this to prototype to the first beta test, we realized that, in a branch scenario, in a public place, there are always customers walking around. And obviously, not all customers are walking towards Abby. So it would look very odd when a customer is passing by and Abby says, "Hi, Rajesh, how may I help you?" So, this was the first challenge. How we resolved it, we just kept a simple start button, and only after you click on that, it will start recognizing your face. Next is on the voice. So we always thought, without a zero touch, like when the customer enters a branch, uh, I can directly talk to Abby without clicking on any button, and Abby would respond back. But again, when we took this to a beta test, we realized that, there are so many customers talking around Abby, and obviously not all branches have a dedicated place for Abby. So the Abby's NLP totally got confused. At one point of time, Abby was literally angry on us. What is happening? The NLP totally got distorted. So we simply resolved this by keeping a mic button. So only when you press the mic button, it would start listening to you. The third scenario was, obviously we have tall customers, we have short customers, and we do not want, obviously, the tall customers to bend down for doing the face recognition, or obviously we do not want the short customers to stand on a stool to recognize themselves. So we simply resolved it by having a gooseneck around the Abby's tablet. And one of the last issues which I wanted to talk about was on the security element. So as humans, we always sometimes forget to log out, but when you're talking about a mobile app, where the mobile is with you, you can actually manage it. Even if you forgot to log out, that's fine, the mobile is still with me. But in a branch scenario, in a physical network scenario, that might be very risky, because when you forget to log out and you walk away, the person standing behind you might not be having a good intent. So what we did was so obviously there are customers who actually, we have faced this, that they forget to log out. So we introduced a persistent face check. That is, let's say when a customer logs out, the other customers, when they trying to do a transaction, it would check for the face whether this is the actual customer's face, and would log out if it is not. So we introduced this persistent face check, and all this was possible through the rapid prototyping model, which I'm going to soon speak about in the next slide. So now, obviously, this is not a repetition of the slide which I showed previously. But now, before I get into this, I just wanted to talk about some old organizational methodology. So obviously, I started my career almost 15 years back. So in those kind of setup, in those kind of industries, even banks, including banks, we always had, the organization structures like, there is a business department who would run only business. There is a technology team who would only look after software and infrastructure element. There is a marketing who would only look after marketing, and so on and so forth. But today, as we speak, sometimes digital is the new way of doing business. So obviously the organizational methodologies and just change structure also has evolved. So obviously in today's scenario, in order for you to survive, you need more matrix organization structures. Similarly, the project methodologies also got evolved. During our earlier days, there was a business team who would give you the business requirement documents. There is a IT team procure infrastructures. There would be a testing team, and so on and so forth. But in today's scenario, will this kind of methodology work? Might be no, might be yes. So talking about this, when you talk about connecting the dots, so you can look at VUCA like an opportunity, or you can look at VUCA like a threat. And every word of VUCA, you alternately have even a positive word. So when I talk about V stands for volatility in the original VUCA full form, but can V also be called as vision? Because no company's vision is to shrink and die. The company's vision is always to survive and thrive. So in this, given this VUCA world, given this digital world, uh, how do you reorganize yourself to become a more leaner, most cost-effective organization? The target operating model becomes extremely critical. How do you revise the target operating model of an organization in order to fit the current world? Similarly, you stood for uncertainty, but can you also stand for understanding? So let us try to understand this particular understanding in a bit deeper. So let's talk about the dynamics of industry shifts that existed. So an important learning that we got from China was on the QR codes. Earlier, you all might know that the QR codes were used to read device pairs, but now today, as you speak, you can actually make QR payments. So, it's always better to re-architect your capabilities, because sooner or later it is going to hit you. So why not do it now instead of waiting? Second is obviously understanding your local market, local competition, understanding your customer needs. And last but not the least, which is very important, is understanding the emerging technology that can support you. So now you have your revised target operating model. Now you know the understanding of what you have to do. Now C also stand for clarity. So can we marry the best of tech and the new target operating model, and can you emerge it to market? So this is a key, in terms of clarity. While doing Abby, uh, immediate thing that came into our mind was, we realized that branch banking scenario may not exist, or it may not be profitable going ahead. So can an STM, can an ATM and a kiosk, ATM and a kiosk, do everything that a branch can do? So this is what we thought like. And with this, we started wireframing, we started prototyping. And with this, at the end, we achieved a certain level of clarity of what we have to do exactly. Now, considering A can also call as agility. You know your target operating model now. You have your understanding of everything in emerging tech, local markets, your customer needs. You have also achieved a clarity to some level, but an idea is only as good as it's implemented. So when you talk about an old traditional methodology, let's say if you take a project and you implement it in 3 years time, you do a BRD, you do solution design, you do so many things and so on and so forth, and then you do MVP phase 1, phase 2, and at the end of 3 years, customer says, boss, I don't need this solution anymore. So this is a very very important thing that we have to consider. So in the old typical waterfall methods, we used to have a certain degree of project methodology. But can that project methodology today evolve? So the question that you need to ask is, do you have a sandboxing environment where you can immediately start and test? Instead of building the servers or devices from scratch, can you take advantage of the cloud technologies that you have? Instead of building any technology from scratch, can you use the existing cloud components? So these are the questions we need to ask ourselves during the entire project methodologies. And last but not the least, talking about Abby, we definitely did not go through the traditional approaches. We used the agile methodology, using prototyping, using we had guys too who can drew up wireframes, showed it to business, and there it was. And Abby was, it was launched in a record time of 8 months with this new project methodology. And last slide, this definitely talks about two things. One is cheers, thank you so much. But there is one more important message that this slide passes you. Most of us, or some of us, can view this glass as half empty, and some of us can view it as half full. So now similarly, if we look at VUCA like a threat, it will look back at you like a threat. But if you look at VUCA like an opportunity, it will give you thousands of opportunities. So thank you very much for your time once again, and that's it.
Thank you for this expose. I am good to meet Abby. I have never met her or him. I don't know what is the gender here of Abby.
It's a female.
Okay. I have never met her. Interesting. We have
So
two
you can
questions.
walk down to any APSA bank branch, and she will be more than ready to greet you.
Okay, I will. So we have two questions from the audience.
Sure.
Now, remote working, not only Abby points, but in general. So with remote working, more than ever, cybersecurity risk has become on the top of the list. So what is currently happening on the banking sector to make sure to eradicate, I would say, this risk? So that is the first question.
Okay. Thank you very much for this question. So this is indeed a very interesting question. So as rightly said, as and when the technologies evolve, the cybersecurity risks also evolve. But an important point to note is I'll just take an example of cloud. So cloud, we have two variants. One is a public cloud and one is a private cloud. So as you see today, during the traditional software development, and you talk about a public cloud, the security is almost similar. But when you talk about the private cloud here instance, just for an example, you have more control over the cloud environment. So the cybersecurity risk also becomes it becomes an integral part of the project. But we do have as when the project methodologies also gets evolved, the cybersecurity risk and cybersecurity, how to tackle the cybersecurity risk also gets evolved at the same time. So an important thing to note here is when you actually use any advanced technologies, you need to have a clear clarity on the anti-tackling mechanisms of the cybersecurity risks. So as you see, earlier there were terminologies which you call what do we say, cybersecurity risks, when you call about SQL injections, when you talk about session hijacking. But if you will read through it carefully, you also have equal measures to actually how to tackle it. So you need to be aware of both these worlds.
I see. There's a second question. Mauritians are very conservative, right? So with this change in physical, let's call it like that, was that something that was easily adopted by a majority, or still like a minority who is going for it using our
So talking about digital adoption. So digital adoption, as you say, it's always an agenda for every bank, be it Mauritius, be it any country. So I'll just give you an example of an ATM. So when ATM was evolved, at that point of time, obviously people were more interested in going to a bank branch and removing out cash. But as you speak today, it has got evolved. You are more dependent on the ATM. So similarly, when you actually do any digital technologies, the education and the adoption becomes equally important. So an important thing to note here is, at the time when you launch any digital service, an equal part should be given to the education to the customers, and that is what we do whenever we launch any service. So with this handholding mechanism, we will ensure that any country's customers will adapt to these digital solutions.
Last question from the audience is have Abby been created only because of the COVID situation, or was that a plan to have such kind of a new technology for banking?
Okay, so it's a very interesting question. So what basically happened was we had imagined Abby even before the start of the pandemic, but as the pandemic came, the importance of it was realized more. So at that time, we accelerated the project in a fast forward, and then it was implemented. But the idea was always to have some kind of digital experience. But irrespective of the pandemic or anything, the branch banking today, what we have, it needs to be completely reimagined. It's just that the pandemic just helped us, and we accelerated on that.
Okay, thank you. That was great. That was very great. I think we have reached the end of this session. Arun, anything you want to add?
Yeah, thank you, Rajesh. That was a great session. So you talk a bit on the opportunities in the VUCA world and taking on board these opportunities, and we thank you for that. So that was a great session. Thank you.
Thanks, Arun. It's likewise. It's a pleasure, to be connected with the PMI and the audience. And thank you so much. You are a lovely audience.
Okay, so now we have our next session.